Hello and welcome to this Orkney Science Festival event online. This is the 30th Science Festival and we're very pleased that this year, despite all the situation around COVID and so on, we're able to bring you the festival wherever you happen to be. Well, today's event I'm looking forward to very much, and we have people here from the Orkney Marine Mammal Research Initiative, which is a local charity, a local organisation newly launched this year, who have applied to become a registered charity. With the aim of undertaking research and collating data relating to marine mammals within Orkney waters, the initiative is already working alongside other organisations in the UK, and just last month launched what is proving to be a very successful sightings alert system for Orkney. That's just a start though. Next year, the initiative will be launching their Stewards of the Sea Citizen Science Programme for Orkney folk, with the aim of ensuring that not only are people able to enjoy seeing cetaceans, but that essential data is gathered to help ensure that whales, dolphins and porpoises are able to thrive. So as I say, we're joined today by the initiative's 3 volunteer trustees, Karen, Emma and Imogen. Karen is responsible for education and outreach, and is often found sitting and undertaking land-based observations for all things marine. Coming from a veterinary background, Karen has a particular interest in the overall health of populations and the diseases that affect them. Emma has spent many years of her life working offshore as a wildlife surveyor. Mad about all things cetacean and an expert at species identification, Emma is also a keen birder. Emma is the initiative's Science and Conservation Officer and leads on data collection and entry, surveys and photo ID. Imogen's interest in conservation issues was initially sparked when working for the Hampshire and the Isle of Wight Wildlife Trust. Over the years, this interest has developed with a specific focus on marine mammals. Already involved with a number of other marine organisations, Imogen has spent the majority of her career working within the voluntary sector. The proud owner of a PD boat, Imogen will be integral to developing the initiative's boat-based research programme and is responsible for funding matters. So without any more fuss, I'm going to hand over to Emma, I think, to begin the session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. Sorry, we had a little interloper halfway through that. We had one of the cats coming through the cat flap. So thank you very much for inviting us along. We're very, very excited to be part of the Orkney International Science Festival here. Very exciting time for us. Obviously, we've just launched OMMRI, the Orkney Marine Mammal Research Initiative, OMMRI for short, much, much easier to say, I have to say. And it was kind of set up because we wanted to do something different. We know that Orkney is a fantastic place to see whales, dolphins and porpoises. We know there's a lot of interest and things like that. And we decided that actually although there's a lot of animals here and people really enjoy seeing them, we don't actually know that much about them. So the decision was made that perhaps we ought to try and do something about that. So that's kind of how OMMRI came about. It's been very lucky that this year is the year of coast and waters, so really good coincidence that we've been able to link in with that and launch at the same time. So we're really, really excited about what the next few years are going to bring. So through this presentation, it's not going to be a hugely long presentation because I'm conscious we have a questions and answers session at the end. If you go to the next slide, please, I'll just give a quick overview of what I'm going to cover. So I've already told you a little bit about who OMMRI is. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, why we're doing it, most importantly, and also how you can get involved yourself. And then onto probably the more interesting bit, the bit that I really love talking about, and that's marine mammals, the life of marine mammals. How do they survive out in our oceans? And obviously the waters around Orkney can be a little bit hostile at times, particularly in the winter months. So how do these fabulous animals actually manage to survive in our waters? So talking a little bit about the key questions that I always get asked when I am talking about marine mammals. So how do they sleep? How do they feed out here? How do they survive in the water? How big do they get? We have a vast range of sizes with the animals. So we're actually going to be going on a little research expedition for this section. We're going to be going outside into the garden in Sandy here and going through a few demonstrations. I've got some bones to show you from different species, feeding demonstration, how the two different types of whales and dolphin feed, and also a demonstration of how big some of these animals actually get. And then coming back inside, I'll finish off with a little bit about the most fantastic, biggest animal on our planet, just to really wow you at the end, and then go into the question and answer session. So without further ado, who is OMMRI and what are we going to be doing over the coming years? So next slide, please. Excellent. So this is us, OMMRI. We launched in July this year after a few months of planning, and we've basically established to look at whales, dolphins and porpoises within Orkney waters. So that's anywhere out to the 12-mile limit around the county. And our aim is to basically gather evidence and get some good quality data on what species are found within Orkney, at what times of year, what type of things they're doing here, why they're visiting Orkney, and things like that. So we can start to build up a real picture of why the animals are here. So things like abundance, distribution, behavioural patterns. Are particular species coming in at a certain time of year to feed on a particular type of prey? Are they using the area as a nursery area to raise their calves? Or are they here all year round? Perhaps they're just migrating through. All of these types of questions that we basically know nothing about at the moment. So lots and lots to discover. And it's fairly simple to do. And that is gathering sightings. That's the most important thing for us, is we need data. And we're going to be collecting it in several different ways. We're asking you, the general public, to send us sightings and help us gather data. Next year, we're going to be launching a Stewards of the Sea citizen science project, which will involve some land-based dedicated watches, lots of training courses for people to learn more about these animals, and also a big education program to get the younger people involved as well, and get the children involved, learning more about these fabulous animals, so that hopefully they grow up and want to help us protect them. The overall aim at the end of this is to get a much, much better understanding of the marine mammals in the county, so that perhaps we can then start to push policy to help protect them and things like that. So quite a big remit and lots for us to do, but very early days at the moment. And as I say, very, very excited about what is going to be happening. So on the next slide, how you can get involved. So very, very simple. First of all, please do let us know if you see anything. We do have a dedicated email address, so if you have any sightings, send them through to us. We also do have a form on our website, so you can upload your sightings via that. And I'm very pleased to say we are seeing some quite good reports coming through. Look out for the Citizen Science project that will be happening from next year. Obviously, COVID permitting, very uncertain at the moment how things are going to pan out, but we'll be ready to go, providing it is safe for us to do so, and to do some workshops for people to train you up on survey techniques, identification, and everything you need to be able to go out and help us gather some good quality data. The other really exciting thing we're doing is we're hoping to compile an identification catalogue for Risso's dolphin in particular. I will be talking a lot more about Risso's dolphin this afternoon, but it's a species that is often seen around Orkney. There's been some fabulous sightings this last month. I'm very jealous because I haven't seen one yet this month, but lots and lots of great sightings. But you can identify the individuals, and that's really important because that allows us to start to track the individuals and find out where they are going. Are they here all year round? Do they come back? Do they prefer certain areas? And you can start to build up a really good life history about individual dolphins. So the way to get involved in that one is if you have any historic photos of Risso's dolphin that show the dorsal fin, we would be interested in having copies so that we can start to analyse them and pull together a catalogue and see if we can identify different individuals. There'll be a lot more information about this coming out in the next couple of months, so do look out for that. And again, we'll have a dedicated email address, and it will be all the information on our website and Facebook page as well. That's the other way you can get involved. Do make sure you follow our Facebook page, and there is a WhatsApp group which is run in conjunction with the Orkney Cetaceans sightings group on Facebook. All you need to do is message us via Facebook with your mobile number and your name, and we can get you added to that. We are limited in terms of the number of people that can actually be in the group, so we do ask that it's people who are within Orkney, or if you're visiting, let us know a few days before you come up here and we can get you in there. We're just very conscious that we don't want the group to be full so that people can't get in. So on to the exciting bit, the life of marine mammals in Orkney. Absolutely wonderful creatures, but what are they? What actually are marine mammals? Well, the clue is definitely in the name. I know a lot of people do think that they are fish, but they are very, very definitely mammals. And there is, the next slide will show exactly why this is. So marine mammals do share many, many characteristics that are common amongst all mammals. So the same as you and me, marine mammals breathe air. They have to come to the surface to breathe, despite the fact they spend their entire lives in the water. If they don't come to the surface to breathe, they'll suffocate. And note I say suffocate rather than drown. Marine mammals are conscious breathers, which means that they physically have to remember to open and close their blowhole or their nostrils to breathe. And they won't do that when they're underwater. They consciously have to make that decision. So rather than drown, because obviously nobody wants water up their nose, they will just suffocate. So that's why they have to come to the surface to breathe. They're warm-blooded, same as you and me, which means that they have to keep their vital organs warm. And the way they do that, particularly around Orkney, because as I can very definitely vouch, the water is incredibly cold, they have a big, thick layer of blubber. And normally what I would do in a workshop like this is I would do a blubber demonstration, which involves putting your hand in a glove covered with lard, another glove over the top, and then dunking it in an ice bucket. Doesn't work virtually, unfortunately, so you'll have to look out for that one when we can actually do this face to face. But it really shows how blubber works really, really well at keeping the vital organs warm on a marine mammal. They also give birth to live young, so they, unlike fish and other aquatic animals that lay eggs, they do nurture their calf in the womb for the gestation period. That can be variable depending on the species, and then they give birth to live young. It's normally just the one animal, one calf that they have. Twins are incredibly rare, and it is likely that they wouldn't survive, so they tend to have just the one calf. And of course, they also feed milk, same as other mammals. The calves drink milk, and they do that in exactly the same way. They suckle, and there's some fabulous photographs out at the moment of how sperm whale suckle, despite the fact that they have a very odd head shape. The mammary glands on the females are internal, so the calves actually have to pretty much get their head right in there and start to stimulate the milk. Really full of fat, it's full of nutrients to help the calves develop, and I will talk a little bit right at the end about quite how good that milk is, particularly in the case of the blue whale. So on to some of the questions that I often get asked. I can pretty much guess when I'm talking to someone who doesn't know too much about marine mammals what they're going to ask me. They're going to ask me things like, how do marine mammals sleep? How do they feed? How big do they get? How old do they get? And how do they survive out in the big wide outdoors? So if we pop on to the next slide. Oh, sorry, I've got ahead of myself here. Classification. As I say, they are mammals. The order is Cetacea or cetacean, and that actually comes from the Greek word for sea monster. And then quite unusually, unlike other groups of animals, they have a suborder. Now, two types, and I will talk a lot about this once we go outside. We have two types. We have the baleen whales or the mystocetes, which means moustached whale, and the odontocetes, the toothed whales. So every single whale and dolphin falls into one of these two categories. And that's where it gets incredibly complicated, because dolphins are actually toothed whales. And then you have dolphins that are called whales in their common name. It's a very new science. There's an awful lot to learn about marine mammals and how they are connected to each other. So very complicated. And at times we struggle to work out what's going on as genetics improve. These different animals are suddenly realizing that they are connected to each other very differently. And what we thought were very closely related species you couldn't be further apart. So watch this space, basically. Okay, on to the next slide, please. Thank you. How many species are there? Oof, that is a very good question. For the reasons I've just said, we're not actually 100% sure. I think it's somewhere in the region of 90 species, but there is some question as to some that look incredibly similar are in fact the same species, whether they're subspecies, or in case of the orca, it's possible there are 9 different species of orca around the world. At the moment, they're known as ecotypes, but there's a lot of work being done on genetics, and it's highly possible they will be split into separate species. So there's a lot of them out there, and as you're probably starting to realise, you don't know that much about some of them, so a lot to learn. Okay, on to the next slide, please. Adaptations to the marine environment. Breathing, I've already spoken about. Blowhole or nostril on the top of the head is closed, tight shut. It's a muscle. When they come to the surface, they physically open it, explosively breathe out, breathe in, close it underwater. It's that quick. They have a really, really good mammalian dive reflex, so they can stay under the water for a long, long time, for some of them over 2 hours. Keeping warm, I've already mentioned blubber. They have this fantastic system called a countercurrent heat exchange system, where the arteries and the blood vessels wrap around each other. So it means that the very warm blood from the core of the body helps keep the rest of them warm. Okay, next slide, please. Thank you. Water. Cetaceans don't drink. They get all of the food that they need, all of the water that they need from the food that they eat, or if they're fasting, from the breakdown of fat from blubber. In terms of vision, they can see in the water just as well as out of the water. And hearing, they have directional hearing underwater, so they do know what's going on and they know where it's coming from. With the toothed whales, they tend to use echolocation, which means that they are able to send a sound wave out, bounces off the object, it comes back, they receive it in their lower jaw, sends a signal up to the brain, and that gives them a picture of what they're looking at. So that's how they're able to hunt in the very, very dark areas. of the deep sea. Something like a sperm whale will be hunting in the pitch black, but it can still find the squid that it feeds on. Okay, next slide, please. So now catching up, on to the common questions. Sleeping, first of all, I'll start with sleeping, the things that marine mammals, you would think perhaps do quite a bit. So if we could go to the next slide, please. Do dolphins and whales actually sleep? Well, actually, no, they don't. Because they can't breathe underwater and they are conscious breathers, they have to make the decision to come to the surface to breathe. Now, if you're a marine mammal and you're going for a sleep, and say in the case of humans, you perhaps get a good 8 hours sleep, you're going to suffocate in that time if you're not conscious to go to the surface to breathe. So how do they do it? What they actually do is they shut down half their brain at a time. It's a wonderful way to have evolved. I wish I could do it. I'd be so much more productive, I have to say. What they do, they shut half their brain down at a time while the other half is still completely active. So they are aware of their surroundings, they're able to make that decision to breathe, they're able to keep a lookout for predators. Very, very important. Research has shown, though, that dolphin mothers and calves get very, very little sleep, particularly with something like an orca. It's a high probability that they don't go into a state of rest, possibly for the first month of the calf's life, because they're too busy trying to make sure their calf is okay, keeping a lookout for predators, feeding, and so on. Research has also shown that dolphins can stay alert for at least 15 days. This was done with research with bottlenose dolphin, and it was testing reactions and cognitive ability. What they found was that that doesn't decrease over 15 days, so the animals don't suffer from exhaustion. They're able to rest perfectly adequately with just shutting half their brain down. And in the images there, you can see sperm whale asleep in the water. They actually rest vertically in the water so that when they breathe, they literally just tip the top of their head out the water, breathe, and then duck back down. With something like a pilot whale in the bottom image, they rest on the surface. It's called logging, and they just hang at the surface and breathe very slowly and gently for around about 20 minutes. And then they'll come out of that state of rest. And most dolphins and large whales will be much the same. So on to feeding. How do some of these animals feed? And I'm going to go outside and do a demonstration on this very shortly. But first of all, on the next slide, I do have an illustration of how mystocetes, the baleen whales, actually feed. I've got some baleen to show you. It's not quite at the stage it needs to be yet. You'll see from the whalebone, hence we do have gloves ready here. But mystocetes feed, they're filter feeders. So what you can see in the image on the left-hand side there is a baleen whale. There's a bait ball of small schooling fish. It opens up its jaw like a big concertina and takes a big gulp. It takes in all of the fish or the krill or whatever it's feeding on, and seawater as well. In the photograph on the other side, you can see a humpback whale that's lunge feeding on its side through a bait ball of krill. What they then do is shut their mouth. They gradually use the muscles in their throat to constrict and close the big balloon that it's created. Using their tongue to push up, all the water comes out of their mouth, and the baleen plates act as a filter, so everything gets caught in the mouth and is there, and then they just use their tongue to lick around, and basically that's them fed, except it's not, because they have to do it repeatedly to make sure they get the amount of food that they need. And I will show you in the demonstration very, very shortly exactly why they have baleen plates as opposed to teeth. Now, do remember that all of these animals came from one ancestor way back millions of years ago. It was a little swamp-like, almost wolf deer-like creature that lived in the swamps, gradually evolved to live in the sea again. So sea animals moved to the land as mammals and then have gradually come back to the sea. Baleen whales at some point had teeth, and even in fetuses now, as they're developing, they have tooth sockets, and then at some point in the development something switches and the baleen plates grow instead. So in the historical record, in the geological record, there are baleen whales out there that had both teeth and baleen. Probably made it much easier to feed depending on what was around, but eventually they have evolved to have these baleen plates, and I will show you those very, very shortly. So I hope you've got your coats. It's a little bit breezy outside, but we're going to pop outside now and hopefully get demonstrations done. We're going to start off with a demonstration on feeding. Then I'm going to show you some bones, and then we're going to go on a very quick walk out to the road, and I'm going to give you a quick demonstration on how big marine mammals actually are. So just going to get my coat on, and if you come out with me, we shall go and see and learn how toothed whales and marine mammal and baleen whales feed out in the sea. So we will just be switching video to a phone outside. So I hope you're ready for a journey. I'm just going to mute this one and turn my video off, and then I will be. Right. My sleeve totally tangled. I'm hoping this is, just check inside it's working. Right. Okay. What we have here might look very simple. We have carrot chunks to represent squid, larger fish. Very important, hundreds and thousands, small schooling fish, and krill. We have very technical pair of chopsticks to represent teeth. And we have an even more technical comb, which basically is baleen plates. So how do these animals feed? What I'm going to do is just pour some water in here. There we are. Thank you, glamorous assistant. Okay, starting off with the baleen whales. How do they feed? So you imagine that this is a wonderful, big, healthy, nutritious bait ball of krill. If you're something like a humpback whale or a blue whale, you're going to be thinking your luck is in. That's not video. Excellent. Right. So here's the comb. These are baleen plates. So this is hanging from the top jaw of the humpback whale. We'll stick with humpback whale as an example. And it's going to lunge sideways through the krill and basically do that. So you can see the krill gets caught in the baleen plates. The whale will then literally lick its tongue along and swallow. Something like a humpback whale or a minke whale can't swallow anything bigger than a grapefruit. Their esophagus is really, really small. So that's why they tend to work on smaller prey. Now, if they had teeth, this is where I'm going to show my fabulous chopstick skills. You cannot pick krill up. Oh, you can maybe get one with teeth. So that is why baleen whales have these baleen plates. Now, if you're a sperm whale or a Risso's dolphin and you have teeth, you're going to be wanting something chunkier to feed on. So imagine these carrot chunks and nice big fat squid. If you had baleen plates and came along, bear in mind your esophagus is very small, you'd come in, you'd attempt to pick one up and you'd get one. If you're something the size of a blue whale, you're going to want more than one squid at a time. However, if you're something the size of a Risso's dolphin or a sperm whale, you can quite easily pick up a fish, eat it, and go in for a second one. Much, much easier. You can chew your prey. If you need to fight with it, a sperm whale do with squid, you've got much more chance of hanging on to it. So that is how baleen whales and sperm and toothed whales feed differently. Now I've got some baleen and that to show you. I'll just dry my hands. We are going over to the bone garden and I will okay, so with my glamorous assistant here, Imogen. This is minke whale. This is a minke whale that unfortunately washed up dead in Sandy late last year, last September. And she had unfortunately been entangled in a fishing net. She was entangled all around the mouth and had washed in dead. She was a pregnant female. It was very sad to see, but actually we've been able to learn quite a lot from this animal. So these are the lower jaw bones, and Imogen is just going to hold one up so you get an idea of size. So this was an adult female. She was around about 10 meters in length. So you will notice Imogen is wearing gloves. These are still a little bit smelly. It takes a long time to process bone.
To give you a sense of scale, I'm 5'3.5".
There you go. The half is very important.
The half is really important.
I'm just going to come over here and point out a couple of bits. This bit here is where a major blood vessel would go in. It runs down through the jaw, and then you can see where bits of it come out, hopefully down the jaw here. So this is the lower jaw. The baleen plates hang from the top jaw, and we do have one, or half of the top of the mouth. As you can see, it's still quite manky, so we're not going to be picking this one up just yet. They need a little bit of cleaning up still. It's quite a slow process. But what hangs from the top jaw? You may have heard the there. This is a baleen plate, or a set of baleen plates. This would run on one side of the top jaw all the way along, and there'd be one on the other top jaw as well. So as you can see, there's individual plates. It's the same as your fingernails. It's keratin, thank you. And it's really quite stiff. It's hairy on one side, and that's what they use to catch the food and then lick. Quite heavy as well, and it really does smell quite badly. So we will pop that one back down there. Now, in terms of toothed whales, this one here is a pilot whale, or was, I should say, a pilot whale. It was a female that washed up dead just over the back of where we live here in Sandy. Doesn't really give a lot away. You can see just here, this area here, the skull is set quite far back, and then the top of the head here. However, the animal's head would actually come down like this, and what you'd have in here is the organ that sends out the echolocation sound. So that's hidden in there. What we'll do, we'll just turn it over, and you can see all along just here, this is the tooth marks, or the tooth holes where the teeth would be. We don't have the lower jaws from this animal, unfortunately. It takes a long time for them to decompose, and they're very, very big, so we do have to leave them on site until we can get them. Now, final one to show you before we go and have a look at size. This is a spine of a white-beaked dolphin. It used to be a little bit more pliable than it is now, as it's drying out. It's stiffened up and isn't so flexible, but you get an idea of the size of a white-beaked dolphin. So just move them out the way, the skull would have sat just here, then all the way back. You see the spinal processes are really quite big. All the way back, the pelvis would be around here somewhere. And all marine mammals have residual hip bones, so there would be a little bone just here that is basically free. It's not attached to anything, and that would have been where the back legs attached. And then it comes all the way down to the tip here, and then the tail would be here. There is no bone in the tail at all. It is just skin and muscle and so on. So that's why you have to be really careful with tails when you touch them. So just to give you a bit of an idea on the marine mammals. Right, if you are now ready, we are going to go on a little expedition just out onto the road, and I'm going to show you how big marine mammals actually are. So we're going to look at several different species as we go, from harbour porpoise all the way up to the blue whale, including some of the species that we do see around Orkney. Hope you brought your machete for getting through the jungle as we cut through here. Quite surprised we haven't had a cat come and join us. Right. We'll start here if I give my glamorous assistant that end. Okay, so you can hold that a moment. First species we're going to look at is the harbour porpoise. So bear with me while I just get my sellotape end, which I very sensibly didn't prepare in advance. Here we go. Right, the harbour porpoise. Oh, we do have a cat. Hello, Smudge. There is. I'm trying to find it. Here we are. Around here. So around about 1.5 meters. Smudge is doing his best harbour porpoise impression on the floor there. Okay, so harbour porpoise, palm imaging at the tail, the head would be about here. Okay, on to the common dolphin, a species we occasionally see in Orkney, definitely becoming more common up here. Great fun to watch. So about 2.5 meters. Let's see. I'm overestimating our There we are. There we go. Okay, so common dolphin around there. On to longfin pilot whale. Now, some of you may remember last May we had some longfin pilot whale 6 meters that caused us a little bit of bother. Pleased to say we got them all back out after 10 days of chasing them around to try and persuade them that they didn't want to make Hurtwell their home. They'd be much better staying off. Here we are. 6 meters on average, a longfin pilot whale. Didn't do that one very well. All the best demonstrations involve sticky back plastic. Throwback. Yeah, but they have prepared it earlier normally. Okay, on to the orca, the one everybody wants to see. So we're looking at roughly 9 meters. So you imagine you're at hocks ahead and this wonderful orca comes by. There we are. You are going to be looking at something around about 9 meters long. So once I've stuck this on, we'll just do a long shot back to Imogen so you get an idea of how long that actually is. Here we go. It's not going to stick. Try that again. Right, an orca. So from where I'm standing back to Imogen, about 9 meters. Minke whale. Again, a species we regularly record in Orkney in the summer. About 10 meters. Now we're on to the baleen whales now. So these are the filter feeders, the krill feeders. So the animal that we recorded in Sandy last year was just shy of 10 meters in length. And the interesting thing with baleen whales is the females are bigger, roughly about 1/3 bigger than the males. Okay, humpback whale. We're still going. We're not even halfway yet to the biggest animal. Nearly there. bit breezy out here, so hopefully you can hear me okay. There you go, humpback whale. Okay, whales. I think people don't like to see in Orkney because when we do, they're often in trouble. They're deep diving, big whales, the biggest of the toothed whale family, big giant squid. Diving to about 3 kilometres deep. Hence, we don't like seeing them around Orkney because they don't do very well yet. So about here, and in the toothed whales, it's the other way round. The males are bigger than the females. 18 metres. Superb.
Hello, it's Swain here. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Emma.
We're now on to fin whale. Very definitely getting into the realms of the big boys, or girls I should say, because the fin whale is a baleen whale. We had one unfortunately strand at Hunda just the other month. That was a big female, 21 metres. Here we are. And that's not as big as they can get. Fin whale, we've chosen this one because that's as big as the one that we had. You can see it's starting to take off. How big the last one, the mighty blue whale. So we're going to go as far as we can with the tape measure. Hopefully not run out of island in the process. Sound difficulty, but 30 metres. Here we are. So the mighty blue whale. You just about see Imogen way at the back there. This is the biggest animal on the planet. And we will go in now because it is windy, and I will carry on talking about the blue whale and then we'll Q&A. So I will walk in and then we shall continue. So hopefully you enjoyed that little expedition. I know it's a bit windy out here, but hey, it's Orkney, we're used to that. Right, just whizzing back. I will just put this on mute so that you don't get the wind sound.
Emma, can you hear me? As Emma makes her way back inside, I would just like to say thank you very much indeed to all of you for that fascinating talk and for bringing us the Science Festival's first live outside broadcast. I can see that they're just making their way inside now, and we'll join them again when they have settled down in their seats. Here we are.
Here we are. Brilliant. Oh, it's cold out there.
I think we should start to appear as a panel now. There we are. Well, we've got a little bit of time for questions. I know you said you had some more to say. Do you want to do that very quickly first?
Can do. Is it possible just to jump back to one last slide? So I'm out of breath now. Sorry. Brilliant, thank you, excellent, this is the one. So just very much wanted to finish off with the wow factor about the blue whale. You've just seen how big a blue whale is. And at this point, I'm gonna lie, because that's not how big a blue whale is, it's how big our tape measure was. Blue whales are actually bigger than that. The biggest ever recorded was 33.9 meters, which is huge. And as you can see from the image there, their heart, that's an adult blue whale, well, model of a blue whale heart. It's larger than a small family car and weighs nearly a ton in weight. You can fit a small child down the nostrils of a blue whale. I have to admit, I know a few I'd quite like to try that with. Dangle them by the ankles. An adult can swim through the arteries, as you can see in the image there, quite easily. But as I was saying about the calves and the milk, the calf weighs 3 tons at birth, which astounds me, I have to admit. And they drink 100 gallons of the mother's milk per day for the first year of its life. And that milk is so rich and so nutritious that they actually increase their weight by 200 pounds per day in that first year. So they are absolutely amazing creatures. I've been lucky enough to see blue whale. It's not something we see around Orkney very often, although there has been one recorded. So yeah, absolutely superb. And I can't ever not talk about the blue whale because they are just so amazing. So always like to finish on that one.
That's lovely.
Sorry, I'm out of breath now, having been outside.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much.
No problem.
And as I say, you've brought us our first Science Festival live outside broadcast. One small expedition from Sandy, but a giant leap for the festival's technical team. So well done, everyone.
Excellent.
It worked really well, I think. I forgot to say at the beginning of the session to our audience that if you have any questions for our speakers, please enter them in the YouTube's live chat. It's not too late to do that. We've got a couple of minutes for questions. In fact, you've answered one already. Your cat's name is Smudge, I think.
Oh, there's a selection of them. They've all been trying to get in on camera.
So we have, as I say, we have a little time for questions. So Richard asks, dolphins in the Murray Firth predate salmon. Are there any prey movements in Orkney that attract dolphins?
That's a really good question, and it's something we're not 100% sure on at the moment. So we will be looking at that.
Okay, we can maybe get an answer to that and have it appear on the website in due course.
Yeah, it's research we're very definitely going to be doing. We know there's squid movement, and we think there is some fish movement. So yeah, watch this space basically.
Sure. I'm just trying to rattle through these questions, so we are overrunning very slightly. What eye adaptation do they have to allow cetaceans to see underwater and in air? Richard again asks.
Type of the lens. They have a very elastic lens, so it can change shape depending on whether they're in the water or out.
That's great. We're just going to have lovely snappy questions here. I can do. Oh, what was the budget for a supervisory cat? Thank you again, Richard. Moving on. Heather asks.
Bribery.
Heather asks, what time of the year is best to look out for different species in Orkney? Are there fewer sightings in winter due to visibility?
Yes, visibility and weather sea conditions are the key. When it's rough, it's really difficult to spot them.
And finally, Richard again, what age do cetaceans live to? Short answer, please.
Oh, variable. But the longest, oldest is about 250.
Wow. Well, that really has been a fascinating event. Thank you very much indeed to you all. Moving on towards our next event, that will be at 2 p.m. BST today, a premiere of a specially recorded film on our YouTube channel. So join us there to hear Catherine Diper, Rebecca Marr, Fiona Sanderson and Dr. Andrew Want talk about Riches of the Shore. So that's at 2 p.m. on the YouTube channel. There are also still spaces available for the PD Kirk lunches this week, and that's the very next event, which we have to clear the channel for. So if you would like to relax around one of our virtual tables and meet some of the festival speakers, please, you and Sandy, if you would like to join us there, you'll be very welcome. We'll send you the link. Please do register to join on the form on the website. It may be that links to these things arrive in the live chat beside the video for those that can see that. So we'd also like to invite you to the festival club tonight, and please come along. And again, the link may appear in the chat as I speak. So if you are enjoying the festival, please do like us on our Facebook page and follow our YouTube channel. So thank you once again to our speakers, Emma, Imogen and Karen, and also to our invisible technical team, mostly invisible, and to you for watching and asking such interesting questions. Good afternoon and thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.